At 3:42 a.m. on November 12, 2024, James Crawford sat in the cab of a John Deere CP 770 cotton picker, watching the 8-row header strip bolls from plants at 4.2 miles per hour across his section near Lubbock, Texas. 56 years old, fourth-generation cotton farmer, 2,800 acres under management. The moisture monitor showed 6.8%. Within the ideal 5 to 8% range for clean picking, his module builder showed 22,400 pounds already compressed. See, 85% capacity before needing to dump. Cotton futures had dropped to 68 cents per pound overnight, down 4 cents from yesterday's close. His gin contract required delivery of 1,200 bales by November 20th, or face a 3-cent per pound penalty on late cotton. Standard practice said, wait until sunrise when visibility improved and dew burned off the plants. His weather app showed a cold front arriving Thursday with potential freeze that would shatter fiber quality and drop his grade from middling to strict low middling, a 12-cent per pound loss. Crawford had 850 acres left to pick and 72 hours before the freeze. He throttled up to 4.8 miles per hour, accepting higher trash content to gain speed. The Texas High Plains cotton harvest operates at a scale that supplies a quarter of America's fiber production. 4 million acres. That's 6,250 square miles of cropland stretching from Lubbock to Amarillo, larger than Connecticut, dedicated almost entirely to upland cotton. Every October through December, approximately 3.5 million bales, each weighing 480 pounds of compressed fiber, must be mechanically harvested, transported to 60 cotton gins, processing 50,000 bales daily at peak season, cleaned, graded, baled, and moved through rail and truck networks to textile mills in North Carolina, export terminals in Houston, and manufacturing facilities across Asia. The operation requires 6,000 cotton picker machines working simultaneously, each costing $750,000 and capable of harvesting 35 acres daily, while building compressed cotton modules weighing 13 tons directly in the field. This is industrial fiber production at a scale where weather determines everything. Margins are measured in cents per pound, and a single freeze can destroy $200 million in standing cotton overnight. James Crawford learned cotton farming from his father, who learned from his grandfather, who planted his first cotton crop in 1952 when the High Plains was still primarily wheat and grazing land. His grandfather picked cotton by hand, dragging a 12-foot sack through rows, earning 3 cents per pound picked, managing maybe 200 pounds per day. A single acre required 80 hours of hand labor. The mechanical pickers arrived in the 1960s, 2-row machines that revolutionized the industry, but still required cotton to be stored in trailers and hauled to gins. His father expanded to 800 acres in 1985, when module builders, machines that compressed picked cotton into portable bricks weighing 26,000 pounds, eliminated the trailer bottleneck. Crawford took over in 1995, expanded to 2,800 acres by 2010, and upgraded to the CP 770 in 2019. A machine that picked cotton and built modules simultaneously, and eliminating the separate module builder entirely. The evolution was remarkable. The economics were brutal. The CP 770 Crawford operated represented peak cotton harvest technology. The machine cost $750,000 new, weighed 58,000 pounds, generated 625 horsepower, and could harvest cotton at rates up to 8 bales per hour in optimal conditions. The 8-row header, spanning 32 feet, stripped cotton bolls from plants using rotating spindles that grabbed fiber while leaving seeds, leaves, and burrs behind. Well, theoretically behind. In reality, cotton always contained trash, leaf fragments, stem pieces, dirt that reduced quality and price. The picker's air system and cleaning mechanism removed some trash, but perfect cleaning was impossible at harvest speeds. The picked cotton moved through pneumatic tubes into a compressor that squeezed it into a dense module measuring 8 feet wide, 32 feet long, and 8 feet tall. When the module reached 26,000 pounds, the picker automatically wrapped it in protective plastic, deposited it in the field, and started building the next one. Crawford could pick 35 acres and create 2 complete modules in a 10-hour shift without stopping. The technology was extraordinary. The margins were terrifying. The economics forced impossible decisions. At 68 cents per pound, a bale of cotton weighing 480 pounds generated $326 in gross revenue. Crawford's land averaged 2.3 bales per acre, better than the regional average of 1.8, but requiring intensive management. That's $750 gross revenue per acre. Seed costs ran $95 per acre for genetically modified varieties engineered for herbicide resistance and Bt toxin production targeting bollworms. Fertilizer added $110 per acre. Herbicides and insecticides, $88. The irrigation costs, crucial in the semi-arid high plains receiving only 18 inches of annual rainfall, added $75 per acre for well operation and pivot systems. Fuel and machinery, $65. Crop insurance, $38. Land costs, $180 per acre. Total operating costs, $651 per acre against $750 revenue. That left $99 profit per acre before equipment depreciation, loan payments, and gin charges of $42 per bale. Actual profit per acre, $3. Across 2,800 acres, Crawford's operation generated $2.1 million in gross revenue and maybe $8,400 in actual profit. One bad decision, one equipment failure, one weather event could turn the entire year negative. At 5:20 a.m., the module builder indicator flashed red. Capacity reached. Crawford stopped the picker, engaged the module wrap system. Hydraulic arms pulled protective plastic around the compressed cotton, sealed it, and lifted the entire 26,000-pound module out of the basket. And the picker set the module on the ground and drove forward. Behind him, a perfectly formed white brick sat in the middle of the field. He'd come back later with a module truck, a specialized flatbed with hydraulic lift, to transport it to the gin. Each module contained roughly 13 bales worth of cotton. At current prices, $4,238 worth of fiber sitting exposed in a field. Multiply that by the 180 modules he'd create this season, and $762,840 in cotton would spend days or weeks sitting in fields before gin transport. The vulnerability was extraordinary. Fire, vandalism, or rain damage could destroy months of work. Insurance covered catastrophic loss, but included deductibles and premium increases that made claims financially painful. His phone buzzed. Text from his daughter, Maria, who managed the farm's logistics from an office in town. She tracked gin capacity, scheduled module pickups. He coordinated with trucking companies. Gin called. They're running at 110% capacity. Earliest slot for your next modules is November 18th. Crawford calculated instantly. November 18th meant finishing harvest by November 16th at the latest. Modules needed 48 hours in the field to cure before ginning. He'd pick his final acres November 15th. That left 3 days. He needed to average 283 acres daily. His picker could handle 35 acres per 10-hour shift. 8 shifts in 3 days meant either he'd fall short by 220 acres. He needed help. He called his neighbor, Rodriguez, who farmed 3,600 acres adjacent to Crawford's land. They'd coordinated before, sharing equipment, helping during breakdowns, covering each other's shortfalls. Rodriguez answered on the second ring. "Yeah? I need your picker for 2 days. I'll pay $3,500 per day plus fuel." "Can't. I'm behind schedule too. That cold front's got everyone panicked." $4,500 per day. Silence. Rodriguez was calculating. His picker sat idle maybe 20% of the time during harvest, while modules were being hauled or fields were being prepared. Renting it out for $9,000 total was pure profit. But it also meant committing his machine and operator to Crawford's fields instead of his own. If Rodriguez's cotton got frozen while helping Crawford, he'd lose far more than $9,000. "I can give you tomorrow. 1 day. $4,500. Cash." Crawford accepted. 1 day meant another 35 acres. That cut his deficit to 185 acres. He'd have to push his own picker beyond sustainable speed, maybe 45 acres per day, if he ran 14-hour shifts and accepted higher trash levels. The cotton would grade lower. He'd lose maybe 2 cents per pound on quality penalties. But 2 cents per pound was better than missing the gin deadline entirely and paying 3 cents per pound late penalties. The sun rose at 7:18 a.m. Crawford kept picking. The High Plains landscape stretched endlessly flat. 4 million acres of cotton fields creating a white blanket across West Texas. From his elevated cab position, he could see a dozen other pickers working neighboring sections. Small dots crawling across vast expanses, each machine costing $750,000, each operator facing identical pressures. The cotton harvest happened simultaneously across the entire region. When weather threatened, everyone accelerated. The gins couldn't keep pace. The bottleneck was systematic, not exceptional. By noon, Crawford had covered 78 acres and created 3 modules. His back ached. His eyes stung from staring at the white cotton and the glare of sun on fiber. He'd eaten a breakfast burrito at 6 a.m. and drunk a thermos of coffee. Nothing since. This was harvest. Continuous operation until darkness or equipment failure forced stops. Rodriguez's picker arrived at 1:30 p.m. A case IH625. He's slightly smaller than Crawford's machine, but reliable. The operator, Santos, had worked for Rodriguez for 8 years. Crawford showed him the sections to pick, explained the module placement pattern, confirmed the fuel arrangement. Santos started work at 2 p.m. 2 pickers working simultaneously created efficiency gains beyond simple addition. While Crawford picked the north sections, Santos worked the south. When Crawford stopped to offload modules, Santos kept picking. When Santos refueled, Crawford maintained productivity. The coordination meant 70 acres covered by 8 p.m. instead of the 50 acres Crawford would have achieved alone. The math was working, barely. Maria called at 6:30 p.m. "Dad, I've got good news and bad news." "Good news. I negotiated an earlier gin slot for November 16th. They'll take 40 modules starting 6 a.m. "And the bad news? They're charging a 10% premium for the expedited processing. That's $1,840 extra." Crawford did the math. 40 modules contained approximately 520 bales. At $326 per bale, that's $169,520 worth of cotton. A 10% premium on processing meant $1,840 additional cost. But delivering by November 16th avoided the 3 cent per pound late penalty, which would have cost $7,488. The premium was cheaper than the penalty. Barely. Do it. This was modern cotton farming. Continuous negotiation with gins, trucking companies, and buyers, each all operating at capacity limits where premiums and penalties determine profitability more than production efficiency. Crawford could grow exceptional cotton. He could operate equipment expertly. He could manage timing perfectly. But none of that mattered if the gin was full, the trucks were unavailable, or the market price dropped below his cost of production. The system was designed for efficiency at scale. Individual farmer margins were collateral damage. By November 14th, Zerk Crawford had picked 2,420 acres and created 162 modules sitting in fields awaiting transport. Santos had returned to Rodriguez's operation after completing the contracted day. Crawford worked alone again, pushing through 16-hour days, harvesting through darkness using the picker's LED lights, sleeping 5 hours between shifts. The physical exhaustion was manageable. The mental stress of racing weather while watching cotton futures drop was crushing. Prices had fallen to 65 cents per pound. Thus every cent decline cost him $33,600 across his entire crop. He'd already lost $133,600 in theoretical revenue from the 4-cent drop since harvest began. The cotton in the ground hadn't changed. The market's valuation of it had. Maria coordinated the module transport like a military logistics operation. 10 trucks running continuous loops. Field to gin, gin to field, 24 hours daily. Each truck hauled 2 modules per load. Each round trip took 90 minutes. The math worked out to 320 modules transported in 48 hours. They had 162 modules to move. Plenty of capacity. Assuming trucks didn't break down, drivers didn't exceed hours of service limits, and the gin maintained receiving capacity. At 11:20 a.m. on November 15th, Crawford picked the final row of the final field, shut down the picker, climbed out. His total harvest, 2,800 acres producing 6,440 bales of cotton. Gross revenue at 65 cents per pound, $2,006,400. Operating costs, $1,822,800. Ergin charges, $270,480. Net profit before equipment depreciation and loan payments, minus $86,880. He'd lost money. The crop had grown successfully. The harvest had executed efficiently. The market price had collapsed. He'd lost $86,880. He sat in his truck for 15 minutes, too exhausted to drive. His phone showed 23 unread messages. Maria, the bank, equipment dealers, seed companies, everyone wanting either money or decisions about next year's planting. He ignored them all until the harvest was complete. The accounting would happen later. Right now, he needed sleep. James Crawford continued farming cotton through 2027, managing costs, hoping for price recovery that never materialized. Futures fluctuated between 62 and 71 cents per pound, never high enough to generate consistent profit given rising input costs. In spring 2028, his banker called. The operation's debt-to-equity ratio had deteriorated. They wanted either substantial collateral additions or they'd call the loan. Crawford didn't have additional collateral. He called Maria. What are our options? Sell to one of the corporate operations. They're consolidating. I've had 3 inquiries in the past month. The offers came quickly. A regional agricultural corporation managing 45,000 acres across 6 counties offered $11.2 million for land, equipment, and contracts. After settling debts, Crawford would net $3.4 million. Enough for retirement. Enough to leave Maria with inheritance. Not enough to feel like 4 generations of work had succeeded. He accepted in June 2028. The corporation integrated his acreage into their portfolio, managed it through hired operators, optimized it with data analytics his generation never mastered. The cotton kept growing. The harvest continued under new ownership. The machines kept picking. The gins kept running. The high plains kept producing 1/4 of America's fiber. Individual farmers came and went. The industrial system persisted. Texas High Plains 4 million acres continue producing 3.5 million bales annually, generating $2.1 billion in revenue, supplying textile mills and export markets, supporting 12,000 farm families operating in a region where 18 inches of annual rainfall makes farming impossible without groundwater irrigation that may not last. The harvest happens every fall, regardless of who owns the land. The cotton moves through the same gins, the same rail lines, the same ports. The system functions. Individual farmers struggle. The fiber keeps flowing. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories of American agriculture's transformation. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and whether you understand the economics crushing family cotton farmers. Thank you for keeping their stories alive.